Welcome to Sexy Sunday, where we analyse sex scenes from films and TV shows, discuss what they tell us about the story, the characters, and more importantly, whether they're hot or not. I'm Jessica.
I'm Anouchka.
And this is Sexy Sunday.
So today, Jess isn't here, which is sad, but filmmaker Zara Woolf is, which is exciting. We're going to talk about filmmaking, we're going to talk about sex scenes, we're going to talk about making films with sex scenes, we're going to talk about all sorts of things. What more could you want? So for starters, do you want to tell us a little bit more about when you started making films, how you started making films, and maybe what kind of films you make?
Yeah, sure. So I started making films in 2019 with my first film, Red Velvet. I've only made 2 films so far. I'm in pre-production for my third. And the films that I make at the moment are female centered films aimed at empowering young women. I'm just sort of trying to establish that as my brand because I feel like it will be a good niche for myself. And it's just something that I'm very passionate about. So, yeah.
Great. Is it from what I've seen, it seems to be quite teenage focused, am I right? Or is it a lot of teenage stories?
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do believe that anyone can tell any story with enough research, but I do feel licensed to tell coming of age stories right now because I'm 21 and I feel like I've kind of just gone through like the crux of coming of age in my own life. So I feel like it's a good time for me to be telling coming of age stories. I've got experience with telling them and I really enjoy it. They're my favorite films to watch, are coming of age films too.
Same. That's just the most fun. That's just the most fun. And like I've not been a teenager for a while now, even though I like to pretend. But like I still feel like this is the thing that I'm the most comfortable writing about, is maybe not so much teenagers as teenagers for me anymore, but more like it's still coming of age. Like it's just, I think coming of age takes such a long time. I don't think that's what a lot of other films do, which is you're a teenager and then you become yourself and it's like you're 19, you've got it all figured out. I think it's like it's a really slow process. I think you actually stay that kind of messy, I don't know what I'm doing with my life person for a lot longer than just your teen years.
I think you can potentially have a coming of age at any age, really.
Absolutely.
Like I think you could even have a coming of age at the ripe age of 75 if you had a, euphoric moment or a revelation that made you see life in a new way. I don't see why you couldn't.
Have you seen the film with Emma Thompson, Good Luck to You, Leo Grant?
No, I haven't.
I would say that's a coming of age film, and she's like
yes, I've seen the posters on the underground. It looks amazing. I really need to get around to watching it.
It's really, yeah, I definitely think because you can come of age and then evolve and maybe coming of age is like maybe not the exact right term for it, but I think it's like coming to your own kind of thing, like just
yes, definitely. There's something really empowering about that journey that a character can go on.
Yeah. So
have you seen
sorry.
Sorry. Have you seen the film The Worst Person in the World?
I have, yes.
Yes, that I feel is the coming of age, and she's in her mid-20s.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, I agree completely. What is Wild Angel about?
Wild Angel is about a young bisexual teenager called Angel, and it's about the first step she takes in pursuing her dream career in playwriting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How long is it?
It's 23 minutes.
Nice.
Yes.
What's the how did you start making those films? Like, do you get funding? Do you just self-fund? Do you do them for a course you're taking? Like what?
Yeah, well, so for my first film, it actually only had a budget of £600, which obviously is a lot of money, but for a short film,
yeah.
it's peanuts.
Yes.
And I self-financed that. I was in my gap year at the time, and I had a job working at Pure Gym as a personal trainer. And well, actually, I was furloughed because it was lockdown. But we still got paid a little bit for, I don't even remember, we were doing some weird like online work and we got paid for it. So I just used some money that I earned there to fund that. And then my second film is also self-funded. It had a bit of a bigger budget. I think all in all, it was about a £2,000 budget. And I self-funded that as well, with some inheritance money that I was left from my grandmother who passed away. Yeah, I mean, the trick is for how I keep the budget really low is that I work with a lot of people who are either still studying or just looking for experience, and are not like needing to be paid, or will take unpaid work. So that is how I keep the cost low. But for my next film, it has got a bit of a bigger budget. And I will, for the first time, be able to pay some actors and the DOP as well.
Amazing.
So.
That's like, yeah, I had to do a lot of things where no one was getting paid, just like everyone else, and getting to pay people is such a good feeling. It's really nice. But it's really difficult to like gather the money.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I
as
mean,
I'm
not
sure
everyone
everyone
can
knows.
get paid on even my third film. Like, it's only a few people.
Yeah,
that we can
but
pay,
I think it's like, obviously it's crap, and if everyone could get paid all the time, that would be much better. But ultimately, you do get things out of, like, I've worked for free on so many
Yeah.
sets, and it's like I got something out of it. Like, I think experience is invaluable.
Yeah.
And then I think as long
Yeah.
as you make a conscious effort that with every step, every film, you get closer to paying people, and then you can pay people, and then hopefully you can pay them more and more, then I think it's like you're doing your part. But you can't, the thing is, no one's gonna give you money to make a film when you've got no film to show that you can
Right,
direct. So it's
exactly.
like you have to start somewhere, and you can't necessarily start with like shitloads of money because you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have it. So I think that's a very fair thing that
Yeah.
everyone has to do it, really.
Yeah. I mean, I've yet to meet my first exec producer. If you're out there, exec producers, please give me a little call. No, I'm joking. No, yeah,
Don't joke. That's
yeah.
exactly this is
I have
not a
yet
joke.
to meet an exec producer. Well, I have yet to work with an exec producer. I haven't actually, to be honest, so far gone about really recruiting any, because I feel like I'm still so early on, and I'm just self-financing still at the moment, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. So did you say you've got basically a sex scene in Wild Angel that's not a sex scene because it happens off camera? So can you tell?
Yeah, kind of. Well, I mean, it's just sort of some intimate kissing, and then she takes her top off at the end of the scene, but we don't really see anything. So, just challenging the classic male gaze there.
Can you tell us a
And
little bit about how you prepped for it? What like conversations with the actors did you have? Did you put a lot of,
yeah,
did you treat it as a different scene, or was it kind of not sexual enough for you to treat it as a different scene?
we definitely treated it very differently. We sadly couldn't afford an intimacy coordinator. And we thought that that it would be okay that there was no intimacy coordinator, just because there was no simulated sex. But yeah, we did treat it very differently. Firstly, when people were applying for the roles, we made sure that they were completely aware, like, what would be happening in that scene if they were to get the role. And we also, told them that we may not have an intimacy coordinator as well. We were still like trying to get one at that stage, but we couldn't. But we made them aware, like, every step of the process, like what exactly was going on. And we also had an intimacy rehearsal before. So basically all the intimacy in Wild Angel is actually choreographed. Yeah, so there was a producer who was sort of like with me. I sort of choreographed the movements. I actually know now, because I've been to a workshop with an intimacy coordinator, that the process works where the intimacy coordinator and the actor together craft the movements for the scene based on what the actors feel comfortable with. At the time, I wasn't actually aware of that, and I actually crafted the movements myself. But for every movement in the scene, I sort of told the actors what it was going to be, asked them if they were comfortable with that. So I gave them sort of space to be like, well, actually, no, like, I don't really want to do that. Can we change it to this? So it was basically the process that an intimacy coordinator would have with actors. And yeah, so everything was planned, and my producer said to them, like, we are going to be like looking out for any improvisation, which was obviously like sort of forbidden in a sense, because like you know, it could be non-consensual if someone was improvising, and who knows. So that was sort of how we went about the process.
So in the workshop you did, you said it's the intimacy coordinator and the actors, the choreographer. Is the director not involved then?
I think in some projects the director would definitely want to be there. But a director told me he has never in his career needed to touch an actor for any reason. That's just something that the intimacy coordinator does. So also because, you know, it's quite an intense environment, it needs to be treated really delicately. So like the least people there possible is best. But I think the director could be there if they wanted to, for sure. But if the director doesn't even need to be there, then I think it's even better if it's literally just intimacy coordinator and actors.
Yeah, I think for me it's more like, as a director, I know that if there's a sex scene, it's gonna be saying things. So I guess it's like I would need to be a part of how we choreograph it to make sure that the actors, not the actors, but the characters are acting a certain way, which makes sense for the story. But then I guess that's also something that I can have a conversation with the intimacy coordinator about, and then they can take it from there with the actors.
I mean, of course, on set, the director's going to be there. It's just in that rehearsal that they're learning the movements.
I mean, like, just, I think obviously depending on the character, the movements will be very different from character to character. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, of course. Yeah, for sure.
That's really interesting. So what's your view on sex scenes in films and TV shows in general, as just a person, not even a filmmaker?
As a spectator?
Yeah.
Sure. I don't really have a problem with it at all, to be honest. I think obviously sex scenes can be for different, like, there can be different good things about them. There might be a sex scene that I think is great because it's really hot. There might be one that I think is great because it really kind of gave a whole new layer to that character and made us feel like we knew them a lot more than if we weren't to see that scene. And I think they can just really help to like progress the plot and like show us exactly, like, you know, what that character is comfortable with doing, and just really giving us more insight into the characters and the plot, for sure. So yeah, I think they can be great for all different kinds of reasons. I also think that they're not always necessary. I think that they can be implied and this and that. If it's not 100% necessary and you don't have the budget for an intimacy coordinator, I would say steer clear. That's my opinion, I say.
Yeah. What about as a filmmaker? Is it something that because so far you've not had any full-on sex scenes in your films. Is it something that you're thinking you will want, like, because, for example, I know that I'm definitely, the day I've got a TV show, it's definitely going to be a sexy one, because I think sex scenes say so much about the characters, and I guess with the kind of stories I write, it wouldn't really make sense not to have them. But so far, the things I've written, there was one that was kind of, sounds more like what you were describing in Wild Angel, where it's like, it was more, they were making out really heavily, and that was more that than actual sex. And then the
Mm-hmm.
last short film I've made, there was kind of there's an after sex moment, but there was no point. It would have been completely unnecessary to have a sex scene, so I didn't put one in. But I know that that's going to be a big part of my work as a writer and a director. Is that like, is this something that you're considering? Is it something that you're thinking about, or is that not
Well,
very close in your
actually, I've
mind?
just realised I have been a part of a project that has had a very graphic sex scene in it. I just wasn't directing or producing it. I was casting it.
Okay.
And that is, that's the sex scene where a oh my God, a dominatrix is pegging a man wearing a dress. So it's not what you might necessarily imagine from a sex scene, but that was interesting because I got to sit in on all the meetings where they were talking about, like, going about the production process and stuff. And yeah, that was really interesting. But in my career, like, I definitely would be interested and open to directing more erotic films for sure. I've read about this director. I can't even remember what her name. Erica Lust, I think her name is. Who directs what are they called? Yeah, erotic short films.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool, especially like this is kind of a little bit of a different type of film, but like porn for women, I think is really an interesting space as well that I would be like interested in potentially directing, because obviously for many years it's just been focused on what the man wants to see when they're watching porn. But like there's this platform called Bellessa that is porn for women, made by women for women. And I think that's really fantastic, and I'm really, really interested in that.
That's really cool. That's why I always
That's obviously not simulated, though. That's
no, of course, yeah. But that's why,
real
like,
sex.
I've always kind of thought like porn would be a really fun thing to direct. But the more, like, we actually did an episode with Jess about porn versus sex scene and kind of what the differences are. And I've realized that actually, as much as I love sex scenes, I don't think I would enjoy porn because they're not enough. They're not actually as, I don't think porn is as hot as sex scenes in films and TV shows. I think porn is literally just like, you have to be so much more graphic. It's so many close-ups, and it's so much. And obviously, I know that porn that's supposedly made for women is a little bit different, but I think it still has a little bit less of a, just because it's not a full TV show where you're like for 3 seasons hoping those two people get together and then they finally do and you're like super excited. I feel like that's what makes a really good sex scene, is very often the build up.
Yes,
And
the
I feel like
build
with
up.
porn, you just
Yes,
don't have as much build up because that's literally not what porn is for.
of course. Yeah.
But I do
And they
know what
don't
you
have the
mean.
time. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite sex scene from films or TV?
That's a really difficult question. There was one, I feel like I can't say a one favorite, but one that does come to mind that I thought was a really hot sex scene was in this film called The Voyeurs, if you've seen that, with
Ooh,
Sydney
I haven't.
Sweeney. It's on Amazon Prime. It's one of those sorts of films where it's got like a lead who's sort of a lead in like a teen TV show. So she's also in Euphoria, obviously. And I feel like they really get hated on, like the ones that are sort of made by the big studios as well. Because I also watched, just going down a different tangent for a moment, this film last night called The Weekend Away, which
With
has
Leighton Meester.
yeah, and it had 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I was like, this is just not correct. This is a fantastic film.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
it's a Netflix film, and yeah, it's got Blair Waldorf in the lead. But like, I swear these reviews must be written by like sexist men who hate Gossip Girl or something. Like, not that I'm even a massive fan of Gossip Girl, but I just thought that was such an unfair rating for this film. Like, I personally would give this film 4 stars out of 5. It was like this murder mystery drama. It was really great, but anyways, but yeah, so this film, The Voyeurs, which has a really hot sex scene, I feel like has been regarded in the same kind of way. It's like not taken that seriously. It's an Amazon film, like Sydney Sweeney in the lead role, sure, like whatever. But like, it's really good. I really liked it. It's another sort of like mystery kind of film lots of like twists and stuff, and I love those so much. So yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting because that's not. Is it the kind of thing you make?
In what kind of sense?
More like thrillery with murder dramas, like kind of thing, with the
Oh,
mystery
right.
things.
Yeah, no, I have yet to make a murder mystery. I have like this horror feature in the works that I'm writing with my dad. It's actually on the back burner right now
Oh,
because I'm
cool.
focusing on this short that I'm doing right now. But I'm really interested in horror and definitely mystery as well in the future, for sure. Just not right now.
Can you tell us a bit about the next short you're doing?
Yes, sure. It's kind of like just getting going right now. But we're in the casting process at the moment. It's called Friday Night Shidduch. It's about a young Jewish girl who is coming out to her family as gay on a Friday night. But this is the same night that her mother is planning on introducing her to a young Jewish boy from their community.
Oh, that sounds fun.
So it's a comedy coming of age. And yeah, so we're just in the first sort of pre-production stages right now. I'm actually doing a location viewing tomorrow, so really excited about that. And yeah, just getting people on board.
Amazing. That sounds really fun. How long is that one going to be? Is it also a 20-minute sort of film?
It's going to be about 15 minutes, so
15.
a bit shorter. Yes.
Nice. So what do you write as well?
I do, but this one is actually written by my dad,
Okay, that's
James
cool.
Woolf. Yes.
Oh, so you work with your dad a lot?
Yeah, I mean, he's been sort of the script advisor on my first two films, so he sort of just really he read the scripts and like gave me any tips on like how to improve the structure because he is amazing. So he's a writer.
Right.
His name's James Woolf, and he writes books, poems, but the main thing that is published by him is plays, and he's had a radio play as well. But like he's just a master of story structure. He even has in the past done like private tuition with clients, teaching them how to really improve the structure of their stories. So lucky me getting it for free.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Helping out with my structure. Yeah.
Nice. And this sounds like the worst transition ever because we were just talking about your dad. What's your least favorite sex scene of all time?
Oh, that's such a difficult question. I'm trying to think of one that I don't like. I remember, you know what? I'm gonna go with this. I don't mind the film. I actually really like the film Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Oh yeah.
But like I remember seeing this sex scene when I was way too young. I think I was about 10 years old, and like it was just so scary to me when I was 10 years old. I was like, I don't know, I just found it weird and like so like it was aggressive, but like they were trying to make it funny, and I don't know.
Who's
I
the
just
sex
wasn't
scene
a big
with?
fan
I've not
of it.
seen this film in ages.
Yeah, I
in
can
it?
hardly remember it, so it was probably not the best thing for me to pluck out of my memory. But it was on one of these weddings, and there's just this very brief sex scene of like this like newly married couple going at it aggressively
It's not Hugh Grant.
upstairs. No, not Hugh Grant.
I'm not
Hugh
interested.
Grant.
Hugh Grant was my very first crush when I was a child. Like I've seen,
Amazing.
I think I saw Four Weddings and a Funeral when I was like 5, and I think that was like the first time I was like, oh my god. Why is this
yeah,
feeling?
no, I love Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant's amazing. I think I said this like the other day to my friend. I think the first crush I remember having was on Superman. I can't remember what is his name in real life.
Superman. Ooh,
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Superman. Shall I see?
How many Supermans has there been? Like which one? Which
well,
Superman?
I've only seen like the original Superman film, but now Googling it, there's loads of Supermans that come up. Christopher Reeve, I think is his name. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. I just thought he was absolutely gorgeous.
Christopher Reeve. Oh yeah, I do know his face. Oh yeah. I get it. It does look very I'm a superhero.
Yeah.
Which I guess was good for playing Superman. His nose freaks me out a teeny tiny bit. It's really small.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, he's got a very I'm an American superhero, I will save your city vibe to him
Yeah, definitely.
that Hugh
Definitely.
Grant does not have.
That's
Uh,
true. But I definitely had a crush on Hugh Grant too, I have to admit. Yeah.
yeah, I have the biggest crush on Hugh Grant. Like, I love that it was my first crush, and then cue to like 20 years later, me moving to the country where he comes from.
I
Uh,
think it's so funny how this is so random, but in Paddington, when he plays the bad guy, the character has just got loads of young Hugh Grant pictures all over his house. Have you seen Paddington?
no, I've not seen the second one, which apparently
Oh,
is
okay.
really
So it
good.
must be the second one. It must be the second one. Yeah. So he is obviously the villain. He's just got loads of young Hugh Grant pictures all over his house, and it's just so
Oh,
funny
that's funny.
because it's obviously Hugh Grant in those pictures. It's not the bad guy from
I'll
Paddington.
have to give it a go because everyone says it's a really good film anyway. I feel like it's not going to give me a lot of sex scenes to analyze, but it's
No,
okay.
it's not. It's definitely not. But you didn't say your favorite and least favorite sex scenes.
Mm, I think you're right. This is a very difficult question. I'd say my favorite. I probably have a few favorites, but the only one that I can think of right now is, have you seen the TV show You?
Yes, yes.
I think one of my favorite sex scenes of all time is the first time Joe and Love have sex.
I can't remember exactly which
Like
one that is.
40, so her brother is like in the living room, he was really drunk, or he took drugs or something. I think he was really drunk, and they kind of took him back to
Yes.
Joe's, and that's when she puts like his tie in his mouth.
His type. Oh, yeah, I don't
Like Joe's
remember
tie.
that
It's
sadly.
I really really like it because it's the first time that you see that Love is a little bit. She's got like a bit of a crazy side to her, which
Right.
I
Oh, I have another one. I think this still counts as a sex scene because it's just a masturbation scene. That's still a sex
yeah,
scene. In
still
the
counts.
first season of You, I don't even remember what her character is, but she sort of masturbates with like this green pillow when she's like
Oh yeah,
fantasizing
Beck.
about Joe. And I just thought like, I don't know, I just really liked it. Like I liked the meaning behind it, and I just thought it was a really cool scene.
They do a lot of really good sex scenes, to be fair.
They
It's
do,
I
yeah.
always find it really interesting when the show is like, because You obviously is like a bit of a creepy show, but
Right.
I always find it quite interesting when it's like you've got a vibe that's not very sexy, but then they've got really good sex scenes. Like, I also find that
Mm.
with Peaky Blinders. I think Peaky Blinders is really, really, really good sex scenes, but it's like the rest of the time you're just seeing people like slashing other people's eyes, and you're like, this is so off-putting. But then they've got really sexy sex scenes. I'm like, oh, I don't know how I feel. I'm so confused.
Oh, I feel like it's because I haven't actually seen all of Peaky Blinders. I think I've just seen like most of the first season, but I feel like maybe because the target audience is probably like sort of young men. So like the two things that I mean, this is very what's it called? Stereotypical, but the two things that men just love to see is a good bit of fighting and a good bit of sex.
That might be why. Look, that works for me. Works for young men and works for me. Any other sex scene related content you want to share before we wrap up?
I'm just trying to think of other films where I really like the sex scenes. I mean, my favorite two films are that have sex scenes in them are The Wolf of Wall Street and Lady Bird.
Oh yeah.
Although The Wolf of Wall Street is one of my favorite films, I'm not a lover of how sort of the like their prostitutes are like portrayed and like
Mm.
the women in the sex scenes are portrayed. I don't know. I just feel like the whole story being about men and their goals and their lives. I don't know. I feel like that's definitely does also translate to the sex scenes. The sex scenes are all about the man and what he wants. And I
But
feel
don't
like
you think that makes sense? Like, because of the topic of the film.
yeah, no, it definitely does. But I don't know. I think it's also interesting to see like how the girl's feeling about this sex scene. For example, when he goes back to the character of Margot Robbie's apartment and he's just trying to think about how he can have sex with her the whole time. I think it would be also interesting to see it from the female perspective as well. And that's not a critique on that film because obviously it works for the purpose of the story, but it just kind of raises the topic of like how films in general, like I would just I find it more refreshing to see the female perspective, including their perspective of the sexual encounters they have.
I mean, I all of my main characters are women. That's not even something I particularly think about, to be honest. It's just the way I write. It always starts with a girl that I want to write about. So I definitely don't disagree, and I think it would be interesting. I do think with The Wolf of Wall Street, the only thing that is it might have been a tiny bit jarring because it's so about him, like the fact that he breaks the fourth wall and he talks like we're so only looking at this story through
Sure.
him that I do think it's like maybe one example where it's like it makes sense that they stayed on his point of view, because ultimately it's probably a very unreliable narrator anyway. But I do know what you mean in a general sense.
Yeah, I think maybe I just mean it more in the sense of just how the story portrays the sex workers, I feel like is just, I don't know, they don't, like, for example, the film that I've just finished casting called Scrub, you're just shown so much more of like the three-dimensionality of like, you know, who like that sex workers are actually just real people and they're not sexualized at all times. And I'm not saying even that The Wolf of Wall Street as a film has the responsibility to show what sex work is really like for a sex worker. I don't know. But like, I don't know, just food for thought, I guess.
No, I know what you mean. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me. It was really, really nice. Please come back.
Thank you for having me.
When your next film comes out, or when you do direct a sex scene, or anytime, just please do come back.
Would love to.
Next week, well, not next week, because we're not doing a podcast every week. I don't know why I'm saying this. Next time, I'm going to have another special guest, which I'm really excited about, and we're going to talk about Call Me By Your Name, which is going to be a lot of fun. So I'll see you guys next time.